perhaps we should go into it round by round and actually give our breakdown, because there were some scorecards out there all over the place, Joe. You saw it coming in on the live tweets. You saw it from various commentators in the sports. People were scoring each and every round all over the place. So let's see how we match up there.
Okay, cool. That sounds fair enough. Let's go through it. Should we go round by round, or should we give our scores first and then...
I would like to go round by round.
Okay, so round one. We open up and basically Leon... We see the kicking game. It's the kick to the body. It's the front kick to the body from there as well. So he has the sort of left kick to the body. And what was really interesting, and this was a move that he did throughout the fight. I just want to break down this technical side of it first, because this was the main scoring for Leon in most of these rounds, was the kicking game. Was that he would throw this left kick, and instead of then... So he'd throw the left kick from a southpaw stance, and then instead of then bringing his leg back to the southpaw stance, he would just plop it straight down, so that then he was in orthodox. And what that did was, it didn't give Usman the time then to then have Leon go backwards, and then Usman able to catch him on one leg. And it also meant that if he caught the leg, he wasn't going to catch Leon going backwards, turning back with it, and so that then he could push into a takedown from there. He threw the kick and just straight back down to the floor. So even if he caught it, he wasn't going to really be able to get going anywhere, except for in the third round. That was the only time he really got something like that going.
So what you're saying is Leon retained like a strong base, ready to sprawl, ready to defend a single leg.
Absolutely.
If that came in. And he was effective in doing that throughout the fight. But here in round one, something I noticed, Joe, was Usman came out originally in southpaw. And we know that ideally Usman would like to be fighting orthodox versus orthodox, and he would be ducking in for the single leg that would be right there ahead of him.
Yeah.
So I wondered, in going southpaw, was he trying to give himself the option to work off that side?
Right. Just to sort of like, I can't do it in my orthodox stance, which is my more natural dominant stance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, could it be replicated? Now that's how he started the round, but quickly transitioned back to a more orthodox, more orthodox heavy approach, and that's what seemed to really open up those body kicks for Leon. That left body kick. Then when Usman went back to orthodox stance, of course, he then had the open side. I believe.
Yes, the open side. Yes,
had the open side, and that's when he was able to work that kind of baseball bat into Usman's body, and then also, of course, the inside low kick, which really started chopping up Usman's leg.
Do you think he should have switched to southpaw and then just relied on that right hand jab? That might have been a bit more effective than staying in this orthodox stance, because he got some nice moments going, but not consistently. There wasn't like a consistent pattern to his striking or a consistent beat rhythm that he could get going. And maybe if he was in that stance, maybe he could just work off that right hand a lot more.
Yeah, well, we know he loves that kind of like step through right straight, infamous knockout of Jorge Masvidal.
Yes,
where he just shuck through him with that. Absolutely spectacular. So yeah, perhaps he could have switched that into a jab. Of course, a jab has become a key weapon for him over this many years now of dominance that he's had. And I did feel like perhaps something was missing there, because as soon as he did switch into a more orthodox heavy approach, that seemed to open up the weapons for Leon. And then Leon was able to keep his lateral movement going. Usman coming in towards him, trying to pressure him, and wasn't really able to close off the movement of Edwards, and didn't really threaten the takedown a whole lot.
No.
So that was a question mark I had, having seen that change and the impact it had for him in the first round. Perhaps if he was able to fight out of southpaw for more of the fight, maybe he could have had more success. But that's implying that I didn't score the fight for Usman, which I'm not going to confirm to you yet, Joe. I want to go through round by round, but here in the first round, it was a round I gave to Leon. The heavier shots, the biggest moment in the round, where he kicked Usman in the body, and Usman kind of fell back. A big reaction from him, and overall outstruck him in that first round. I believe it was 20 total strikes to Usman's 13, or 20 significant strikes to Usman's 12. Quite easy round to score, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. We move on to round two, And this is the round where Usman gets his first takedown of the fight, but we then start to see basically the changes that Edwards had made with the takedown defense, which was getting 2 hands on one. And
when Usman had backed him up against the cage in his patented favourite style, Usman pressuring him against the fence, reaching down then for a single leg, trying to lock the hands.
Yeah.
But Edwards has found a solution,
which was incredible. It was actually
two hands on one. You're saying
2 hands on one, and it was coming from a couple times. He had a really interesting one, which was very reminiscent of Shavkat Rakhmonov against Jeff Neal, where Rakhmonov would do it in the offensive stance, where he's pressing Neal against the cage, where he has, let's say, a right hand overhook of Jeff Neal's left arm, and then that right hand is coming through to then grab Neal's right hand, and then he takes his left hand and gets the second hand there onto Jeff Neal's arm from there. Edwards was doing that in a defensive stance then as well, to break the grip, and then anytime he couldn't get the overhook, it was just immediate 2 hands on one. You're not getting those hands together whatsoever. You're not going to be able to take me down from there. I'm pressing down on you from there. And it was a tremendous performance from him in terms of that defensive takedowns. Now, round 2, Usman upped the output, but I've got to say, I thought maybe people might think I'm being biased, but I think he whiffed on a lot of shots, man. Like, I thought some of this, a lot of it was blocked. A lot of it was like head hunting that Leon was sort of like parrying out the way. Some of it landed, but it wasn't as damaging. Whereas I thought Leon's striking, whilst at a reduced capacity, was sharper. You know, it was a lot sharper. And
the bigger impacts with it, again, those leg kicks to the body, he was really whiffing on. He was really ripping into Usman, especially later on in the round. Nonetheless, as you say, Usman he had a better round in round 2. I thought it was a close one.
Yeah.
There's a big right hand from Usman.
Yes.
Which, that reminded me of the good old days.
Yes.
Usman pre-knockout, another fabled fighter.
Yeah. But I think the problem that I have with it, though, is that also then Edwards in that round, he landed the knee, didn't he, in that round? And then
big impact.
Landed the knee, and he also landed, was it a left uppercut that he landed in that round as well, if I remember correctly? So again, it's like, Usman landed the big shot there, but I think he was sloppy with the rest of it, whereas Leon landed some equally big shots, but maybe didn't have that level of output. So really, I think you could score that round either way. For me personally, I gave it to Leon Edwards.
Yeah, same. I had it as a close round, but I should say that I watched the fight twice.
Yes.
Nothing's changed about how I saw the fight. I scored the first for Leon, and I scored the second for Leon as well.
Okay, cool. First rounds, you're saying, not the first the watches.
Yeah, so on the first watch, I scored it the first and the second for Leon, and on the second watch through 2.
Okay. Now we move into round 3. Now this is where we started to get into the controversy of this fight, where Leon got a point deduction in this round for grabbing the fence. First of all, correct decision, Tom. Point deduction there, Leon.
No controversy from me, Joe. It was. I love a bit of this ill-tempered nastiness. I loved it when Usman came running across the ring before the round started. Yeah. And Edwards was like, Hold on, brother.
Yeah.
We're fighting here.
Yeah.
Let's abide by the rules while we do so, which was pretty rich because, let's be honest, Leon was playing a kind of bingo. He was testing the ref. We'll have one of these, one of those.
It was real. It was real. Having his ordering the Chinese, isn't it? Going like, I'll have a spring roll. I'll kick him in the dick. I'll point him in the eyes, and I'll get the chili beef. Like, it was all over the place. It was just like.
Lovely stuff.
It was very bitty, wasn't it? It was a very bitty fight at that point.
And I love that bad blood. That's what starts to come out when you've got the best meeting the best, and there's just fine lines that separate them.
Yeah.
No controversy on the point deduction. They said it was like the first time, and he hadn't had a warning. But something I wanted to pick up on there was that it wasn't actually the first time. It was the second time in the fight. The first time had happened for him to get up, having been taken down by Usman in the third round. He used the fence getting up.
Yeah.
Then Usman went to return him to the mat, and he grabbed it again,
Yeah.
and that was the really blatant one.
Yeah.
Now, we have to mention that for him to get up in the first place, he used the fence.
Yes.
And I don't mean he wall walked, Joe. I
No.
mean he Spider-Man'd up the fence, and no question about a point deduction. The question would be, should you give Usman the position? There was a bit of debate about this from the
No, you get the point or the position. Now, at that stage, I actually think it's for the best that it's not in the fighter's decision of like...
Hold on.
Yeah.
Now, does it impact your thinking the fact that Edwards did also use the cage to get up? So
what do you mean?
The cage, so he grabbed the cage to get up, having been taken down. Then Usman went to return him to the mat, and he grabbed the cage for a second time to stop himself being taken down again.
But he's getting
so
the points
twice.
He's getting the points deduction for that second one, though, isn't he? Because that's what he was being judged off of.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it seems to be that this is the standing of you get the point deduction and you don't get the position. Which, if I'm a fighter, I'm taking that point deduction all day, every day. Like, there's no doubt about that. Because even if you're losing that round, in the judge's eyes, then, like, you could suddenly be ahead, and that becomes a 10-8 round immediately. You know, it kind of undoes all the work that the other guy's done. So, yeah, I would take that personally. But
If you were Usman, you mean?
oh yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no question
Especially,
about that.
we know how hard it is to get 10-8s in the sport.
Yeah.
And, have the point deduction and just edge out the round 10-8, better than just grinding them out on top for the rest of the round. And
Is this
probably
also
scoring 10-9.
Is this also the round as well where Usman got the takedown off the single leg, where he went to the single leg, put his leg back, and then he lifted it back up again as a sort of like pendulum motion to bring him down, because that was a superb takedown from Usman.
Yeah,
and it showed that he had to go to that level of, his bag of tricks to get Leon actually down as well.
Yeah, he really dove in on that single leg. Don't have it in my notes here if it was in this round, but he did secure one takedown, so it probably was that one. Overall, a pretty competitive round again. Usman applying more pressure. He was really going.
He was really going for it, wasn't
he? Yeah, I believe we had heard from Coach Whitman that he basically wanted Usman to chase him down, not allow any space. And we started to see that from Usman. Lovely to see a fighter responding to their coach, and as he should when you got Trevor Whitman in your corner. How did you score it?
I gave that round to Usman.
So on first watch, I scored it for Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
On second watch, I scored it for Kamaru Usman.
What was the change for you?
It was really noticing. I have to say, I mean, Usman had secured the takedown. He'd secured a takedown, and he was on top. And I was really crediting Leon with getting out from being underneath Usman. I was crediting how fast he was able to get up in my first watch through. And on the second watch through, when I noticed that he grabbed the cage to do that, to achieve that, then I discredited that takedown defense.
Yeah.
Which is something that I scored, because obviously his takedown defense was what allowed Leon to get off his strikes.
Yeah.
And was a key element in the improvements that Leon made coming in here. So, yeah, that was a big element.
I thought.
And then,
go on.
Sorry,
go on.
Please, Joe.
No, what kind of swayed me to Usman in there was that, like, damage-wise, I thought it was kind of equal. But it was the fact that Usman was really pressing the action, was pressing forward, and was like, yeah, some of his shots were whiffing, but like he wasn't just throwing single shots. He was throwing a big action to harangue him against the cage and then to throw something afterwards. And there was a couple times where he caught Usman up against the fence, but
caught Edwards.
Sorry, caught Edwards up against the fence. Sorry, my mistake. But again, there's just this continued problem that sort of slowed down in this round, but it came back in rounds 4 and 5. That goes back to the kicking game of Edwards, which was Usman didn't check a single kick in this fight because he was so worried about that head kick. And as Leon credited him, I couldn't get it. Like, there was no way I was going to get it. And that's something interesting as well, that Edwards has shown that he's not just going to like wing something and put himself in an awkward position if he knows it's not there. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you go to the second fight and you see that finish, the fact that he waited and he didn't just like was throwing wild shit because it's just I'm down or I've got to try and get a finish in and put yourself in a difficult position. He waited and he tried to bide his time.
Yeah,
and he tried to do it in this fight, and he did unload it in the end, but it was still like wasn't that as close.
Only one significant attempt at it that I saw, perhaps two, one shot earlier on. Yeah, I mean, great from both fighters. I wonder, I mean, Edwards, he would probably take that given he had free license to pick apart Usman's lead leg and of course work the body. Not that we really saw it tell much in Usman outside of that big reaction we mentioned earlier on in the fight. Yeah, the other thing I just recall that swayed this round for me, it was a big elbow that Usman landed really late in the round.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So right now we've got the scores even. That would be a 10-8 then for Usman. Let's move on to the championship rounds.
Rounds 4 and 5. Let's start here. Output-wise, throughout the whole fight, Edwards was incredibly consistent. Like round 1, 20 significant strikes, 2, 23, round 3, 24, and then round 4, 25. So it's most of the fight so far, so he's upping his output ever so slightly, but he's fighting at a very consistent rhythm. Whereas round 4 for Usman, 14 strikes landed, wasn't really getting anything going. And at this point, I actually really feel like the kicking game of Edwards like came into its own, those body shots. And I think that actually is where we see the damage on Usman, is that his output was so low in this round. Like, I really think he was wearing those kicks and really struggling with them. And I think that's what I give Edwards that credit. And then certain moments of this round, it's starting to open up the hands as well. Like, his striking was so much more advanced than Usman's. And I just didn't feel that, like, Usman had that real clobbering power to get him back up against the fence. And I was incredibly impressed also with Edwards not getting caught up against the fence. Getting away from the fence was incredible.
This was a real key change in the fight, and perhaps you can attribute it to the fact that it was at sea level instead of at altitude. I mean, Leon's lateral movement was excellent throughout the fight, and it was basically, him peppering, and sometimes a bit more than peppering Usman as Usman tried to apply that pressure and walk him down. And ultimately, Edwards was too fast with those strikes as well. He really had a lot of pep, a lot of punch, and he clearly, he outmatched Usman physically.
Yeah. Edwards looked really big. Like, he looks, close to middleweight size at certain points. Like, he looked like a big guy in there.
Now, it sounds like you plumped for Usman here in the fourth.
No, Edwards in the fourth.
Sorry, I meant to say Edwards. Yeah. What I found interesting, though, is that the bookmakers, halfway through this round, they were looking at Usman as the favourite.
I think probably because of that points deduction, bringing it even, greater experience.
John Anik announced after the fourth round that was a clear Usman round for him. And that's what Anik came out and said, and I questioned it at the time. Like, is this my English bias shining through? Is this the Bisping syndrome?
Yeah.
But no, I also scored it for Leon Edwards. I mean, he got off more offense.
That's
and he
why
didn't succumb to Usman's. Usman couldn't implement, basically. And then we went into the fifth, and it was more of the same for me. Edwards very comfortable. Usman, applying the pressure, but just not getting enough off. It's all well and good taking up strong positions against the cage, threatening takedowns, but if you're not doing any damage and the other guy is, then you can't win the round. Ultimately, 28 significant strikes for Usman's 20. Usman just 1 of 6 takedowns and didn't secure it for very long at all. But another note on the commentary during the fifth round, Joe. So in the same round, a certain Michael Bisping first exclaimed that Usman was fading.
Yeah.
So only 1 minute later, scream non-stop pressure from Usman.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, do you think there's some grounds to the criticism of the commentary here? Gaethje, post-fight, he said it was a
but Gaethje's Usman's teammate, so then there's his bias. That's ridiculous. Like, I'm not having that. No, listen, I think... How much do you think we really know what's going on in the fight, Tom? Like, and when I mean that, I mean, how much is this hurting for them? Like, how much have they got left? Like, realistically. Like, I would say we know about 50%. And there's just this unknowable thing of like, man, Leon's really ripping him to the body. Oh my God, Usman must really be struggling. Or is it the case, Leon's ripping him to the body and Usman's like, fuck me, man, I've got to hold this for as long as I can, and then I'm going to have to just burst and like come forward and try and get this round from him, because they must have both realised I'm not getting this guy out of here, so I have to try and like take this round from him. And I just felt that every time Usman pressed forward and he was just like, right, I've got to go, I've got to take this round, Edwards just had answers for him. That kick, that body kick, and then he did start throwing that head kick in the fifth. If I remember correctly, he threw it twice, and that was like a real, like, even though it didn't land, it was like, hold on, I'm not getting caught with that again. I need to wait and I need to be patient, because also it's just like it paused Usman. It meant that he had to reset and start again, and then Edwards can then start going to the body and legs again.
It sounds like we're unanimous then in declaring Edwards the legitimate winner of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. Just a 10-8 for Usman because of the deduction in round 3. Otherwise, 4 rounds go to Leon Edwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's same for me. Both watches through, apart from the first one I gave all of the rounds to Edwards, and I couldn't really understand what the controversy was about.
Oh, by the way, also, can I just say that, like, if you give Usman an extra round, I'm not mad at that. Like, round 2, like, I'm not mad at someone giving that. Like,
Very close round.
It's a very close round.
Yeah.
But like people going like, that's a robbery, that's a this, like I'll put it straight out there, you're a dickhead if you think like that.